Hi, my name is Rodrigo. This is Ether, where we make content to help you live and grow as a Christian. And we have been doing a series to help you better understand the book of Revelation. So far, we did a video on the apocalyptic genre as a whole and also the symbolism in the book of Revelation. But even if you grasp both of those concepts, you will still find yourself trying to interpret what the book of Revelation means. Because of that, in this video, we're going to look at different interpretational approaches to the book of Revelation. That's right, you can interpret the Bible in different ways. Before we go on, let me explain what I mean by interpreting. Whenever you read scripture, you will eventually arrive at a place in which you ask yourself the question, what does this mean for me? Especially if you're reading the Bible for it to shape the way that you live. The way that you answer that question, or the lens through which you answer that question, really affects how you ultimately answer the question itself. To give you a very simple example, if you read the Bible through a lens of faith, and if you read it through a lens of skepticism, you can read the exact same passage and walk away with very different meanings. In the same way, the lens that we apply to a reading of Revelation is really going to affect how we answer the question of what does Revelation mean to me. Also, before we go on, let me say that we're going to explore 3 different ways of interpreting Revelation in this video. 2 of which are probably the most popular ways in which people interpret the book of Revelation, and then a third one that I think is the best way to interpret the book of Revelation. Now, by best, I don't mean the only way, I don't mean the ultimate way, I mean the best thing that I've arrived to after doing a lot of reading and research. You may not agree with my interpretational approach. Along the way, you may find a better one, and if you disagree, just let me know in the comments. You can be as angry as you want. You will not hurt my feelings. Or maybe you will. All that being said, let's look at what may be the 2 most popular ways in which people interpret the book of Revelation. And they both have to do with a timeline in which John's prophecies find their ultimate fulfillment and meaning. First, there's a futurist approach in which John's prophecies find their ultimate meaning and fulfillment in the future. Meaning that we don't really know what John meant by the beast or the mark of the beast or wars and plagues because they haven't yet happened. The problem with this approach is that under it, what we ultimately do is that we apply every current event to the book of Revelation. So for example, just off the top of my head, through my lifetime, there's been like 3 beasts: Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, and if you're Fox News, Barack Obama. Also, every single conflict in the world ends up being the war to end all wars. Every crisis, especially health crises, are the plagues. Like when I was young, the AIDS epidemic was the plague, and then it was the bird flu, and most recently, obviously, it's been COVID. And also the mark of the beast has changed constantly throughout my life. At some point, it was your social security number. At some point, it was chips under your skin. And most recently, as I've talked about in other videos, it's been the COVID vaccine. The problem with the futurist approach is that there's a potential that we may never arrive at really understanding what the book of Revelation means because things just keep happening. On the other hand, the other lens that people apply to interpret the book of Revelation is the historic lens. Under this approach, John's prophecies find their ultimate meaning and fulfillment in the past within the context of the Roman Empire. So the beast is one of the Roman emperors. Which one is really up for debate? The mark of the beast is something that the Roman Empire did to its citizens. Again, what exactly is up for debate? And wars and plagues were actually really common during the Roman Empire. So again, there's lots of debate as to what exactly those were. The biggest thing with this approach is that it tells us a lot about what the early Christians underwent in the past. But the problem is that it has little to tell us about what Revelation is supposed to mean for us in our lives going forward. Now that I've explained these 2 popular ways of interpreting Revelation, let me offer up a third lens, if you will, to interpret Revelation, and the one that I think is the best one. See, both the futurist and the historic approach have the same problem in that they focus too much on John's prophecies and their fulfillment. John didn't write the book of Revelation for the sake of predicting the future. It's not like he was sitting there trying to prove his prophetic skill. John wrote Revelation for the sake of the church, to warn them about upcoming hard times and to reveal to them what would have been hard for them to see, that in spite of the suffering and injustice they were going to experience, God's protective hand was on them, and his justice was ultimately going to prevail. He also wrote Revelation to encourage the church to remain faithful because the upcoming hard times were going to put their loyalties on the line. John is clearly trying to shepherd the church towards faithfulness in God, Christ, and the Spirit. It is this shepherding lens that I think is the best way to interpret Revelation, because it forces us to ask the question of where was John trying to lead the church by revealing to them what he revealed. This is also the best approach because those of us who are still trying to faithfully follow Jesus, whether we're looking at the past or the future, are still the church. I really hope that this video about interpreting the book of Revelation has helped you and will help you understand the book of Revelation better. We're about halfway through our series. We're going to do actually 3 more videos on 3 lessons that we can learn from the book of Revelation, and we certainly hope that you're going to watch those as well. If you enjoy what we're doing, please subscribe to our channel and also share the content with other people. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.